Before starting the video, make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and I also did make a new Discord server. The link is down below if you want to come check it out. This is a new Discord, so if you want to help shape a great community, come by and check it out. Now with that out of the way, let's get into this video. So what's going on YouTube? This is Devin coming back at you with another video today on Pub Stomp MTG. Today we're actually looking at a pretty interesting Jeskai commander that is dealing with life gain. Today we're going to be looking at the Archimandrite. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. That's a big of a mouthful of a word. However, this commander has some pretty crazy text. At the beginning of your upkeep, you gain X life, where X is the number of cards in your hand minus 4. Whenever you gain life, each advisor, artificer, and monk you control gains vigilance and gets plus X plus 0 until end of turn, where X is the amount of life you gained. Tap 3 untapped advisors, artificers, or monks you control and draw a card. So there's definitely a lot to unload with this commander. What I really like about this commander, it gives your advisors, artificers, and monks vigilance, and so they could swing in, and then later on you could tap them to get some card draw later on. And if you go into a life gain theme, you could really pump your team to swing out for a huge amount of damage. So there's definitely a lot to like about this commander, but so let's first talk about some advisors to add into the list. Obviously the big one I feel like should be in this no matter what is Ledger Shredder, obviously because it has flying, because it has some of that evasion, and also has that card looting with that connive ability. Another card that I found interesting in this deck would be Glenn, the voice of Calm. I know this is a Walking Dead exclusive, and the only real reason I am adding this into the list is because it is an advisor, and when it deals combat damage to a player, draw the cards equal to its power. So because of our commander, we could pump up Glenn so that we could draw a bunch of cards off of him, and he does have Skulk, so I feel like this is a perfect card in the deck. Last advisor I did want to mention was Dendry Klin. So it enters the battlefield with your choice of a 1/1 counter, first strike counter, or a vigilance counter on it. The counter I would suggest putting on it would be first strike, and here's my reason. Our commander is already giving a lot of our creatures vigilance anyway, so I feel like that's kind of unnecessary, and a 1/1 counter is okay, but we're already pumping up our creatures, so there's no point in that. However, a lot of our creatures are going to have lifelink, and that's going to be absolutely huge, because if that creature has lifelink, the first strike damage is going to count first, then it's going to pump up your team even more for those creatures that don't have first strike. So I definitely feel like this was an obvious include, but let's look at some monks to add into the list, because I feel like monks is definitely the way we're going to go with this list, because there are some insane monks in Jeskai. And with this next card, I feel like it's actually the best creature in the whole entire deck, because it produces us a lot of monks so that we can swing in wide. So the obvious include would be Monastery Mentor. This is an absolute house in this deck because it does have prowess, and also whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you can create a 1/1 might monk creature token with prowess. So this is definitely a big upgrade for this deck if we want to add a lot of monks onto the battlefield so that we can swing in for a lot of damage. Another monk, a part of the Jeskai clan, would be Shu Yun. This is definitely a great card in this list because whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may pay a Boros and a Boros. If you do, target creature gains double strike until end of turn. Later on this video, I'm going to mention some ways you can get double strike, because double strike is going to absolutely wreck everybody on the battlefield. So if your creatures do have lifelink and they get double strike because of this, the first strike will blow, and then you will gain life off of that, and then your commander will see that and then buff up your creatures even more, and then you'll swing in for a lot more damage that way. So that's great and all, but what are some other monks we could add into the list that have some great utility? So Rock's Faith Mender is absolutely perfect in here because it does have lifelink, and if you gain life, you gain twice that much life instead. So this is just going to further push the advantage we do have getting life and then pumping our team. So last monk I did want to mention on this list, there's a lot more in the deck list down below. So we have one of the most famous monks in EDH for a good reason, honestly. We have Serra Ascendant, which has lifelink, and as long as you have 30 or more life, Serra Ascendant has 5/5 and has flying. So if you start the game with this, you're going to be having a 6/6 flying and lifelink just for 1 mana. And this was before a commander was a very popular format, so honestly, this is honestly really stupid if you have it in your opening hand. So let's move away from some of the creatures we want to have in this list, but let's talk about some card advantage pieces in our deck. For the first two, I won't talk about them too much because they're honestly card advantage engines, especially if you get them early on, like Mystic Remora and Rhystic Study. The only reason why I added these into this list, I know it's not very casual with these cards, but I feel like these are really great in this deck because if we have a lot of cards in our hand, the more life gain we will get, and then on top of that, the more power our creatures will get. But some other options I thought about was the Magic Mirror. I'm actually really surprised at how underplayed this card is because it does have no maximum hand size, and at the beginning of your upkeep, put a knowledge counter on the Magic Mirror, then draw a card for each knowledge counter on the Magic Mirror. So if this card gets early on into the game, this is going to get us a lot of card advantage later on as more and more knowledge counters go on it. The last card I did want to mention on this list is actually Dawn of Hope. For 2 mana, you're getting a lot for it. Whenever you gain life, you may pay 2 mana if you do draw a card. That's simple, and you can make a 1/1 white soldier creature token with lifelink. So obviously we're going to gain some life, we get some card advantage with it, but let's also talk about some life gain effects for the deck because I feel like we need to have a mix of those and on top of card draws in order for us to get a lot of damage going through. So a perfect artifact to add into this list would be Alhammarite's Archive. I can't pronounce that correctly. Obviously I can't pronounce a lot of things correctly, so forgive me on that part, but if you gain life, you gain twice that much life instead, and if you would draw 1 card except the first one you draw in each of your draw steps, draw 2 instead. So obviously this is perfect in our deck because we want to gain some life and get a lot of card advantage, so this is doing both for us. I also thought of adding Heliod's Intervention in here for good reason. It does have some great utility for destroying artifacts or enchantments, but what I really like about it is target player gains twice X life. Say for example you pay 5 into this and you gain 10 life in a combat trick. Then all your creatures that fit into your requirement for your commander will get +10/+0. That is absolutely absurd in my opinion. But we do want to make sure our opponents don't have any blockers for our creatures swinging in. So I thought it would be perfect to have Authority of the Consuls and Blind Obedience in this deck because with both of these cards, creatures your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped, so that's honestly perfect in here because we want to be swinging for big damage. Speaking of big damage, we want to talk about Double Strike. I know I mentioned this a little bit, but let's dive into some double striking abilities we could have for our creatures. So first I thought of Blade Historian and Berserker's Onslaught. They both give our creatures double strike when they are attacking, so honestly this is absolutely perfect right here. Another huge card, and I mean huge card to have into this list, is True Conviction. Again, I want to re-emphasize the importance of having double strike and lifelink in this deck because it'll be huge. Because we gain life off of that first double strike trigger, because of that, our commander will see that and will pump up our team even more because of how much life we gained off of that double strike ability. So when we hit again, we're going to hit again hard. So that's why another card like Akroma's Will could possibly be a game winner for us. If our commander is out, our creatures can get Flying, Vigilance, and Double Strike, and also on top of that, Lifelink, Indestructible, and Protection from all colors until end of turn. So if that doesn't win the game, I have another option that would win you the game, probably for sure, if you have enough creatures on the battlefield. So another absolutely crazy card in here would be Beacon of Immortality, paying 6 mana for an instant spell, double the target player's life total. And I do want to clarify this does count as life gain with Beacon of Immortality. So let's just say you're swinging with a bunch of monks flying in the air, and your opponents say, I'm not going to block just 2/2s. Then you play this on the stack, and then you double your life, and let's just say you have 20 life. That means you will gain 20 life off a Beacon of Immortality, and all your creatures will get +20/+0, and that could definitely close out the game for sure. So with that out of the way, thank you guys so much for coming by and watching this video on this new commander. Let me know down below, what do you think of her? And with that out of the way, thank you for stomping by.